Marvin, USC, they finished the regular season. They're 9-3. They went 7-2 in conference play. They're going to finish fourth in the standings ahead of Michigan. That's always a good thing. They beat them head-to-head at the Coliseum. And they also went undefeated at home, 7-0. They got that win over UCLA. We got one game left in the 2025 season. You and I, we're going to talk about the win over UCLA and then everything else that's going on. All that's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone, and welcome to Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, which is also now the #1 sports podcast network. So whether you're watching this show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, you pick the platform, you do the download. This show is going to be free. This show is going to appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Marvin, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I know you were herding kids up there in New York. Now we have to wait and kind of find out where USC is heading for its bowl game. Everyone is assuming it's going to be the Alamo Bowl, maybe BYU, maybe Iowa State, maybe Houston, all that still yet to be determined. We can talk about the bowl game later. Let's kind of push that aside. MVP 3. What did you see in USC's win over the Bruins that you liked? Talk to me about it. I know it didn't go down exactly like we wanted it to, but bottom line, they got the win.
Yeah. So, when I look at the game, I look at our program, I look at everything, it's about progression. It's about growth. Last year, we didn't finish games in the second half. We didn't finish strong in the fourth quarter. Against UCLA, we went out there and, we played a bad first half, but we came back and we played a good enough second half to win the game. We showed grit. We showed mental toughness. We showed fortitude. We showed the things that you need if you want to be a great team, So regardless of who we played, regardless of where we played, the fact that, we had adversity, you can say we created it for ourselves if you want, but we responded, when our back was to the wall and we had to have it and we had to play better and we had to make plays. We did that. We did it on offense and we did it on defense. So I really feel good about how we ended the regular season at home against the Bruins, a rival. And that game is big for so many reasons, especially coming off that big L we took up in Eugene. It feels good to get a win, especially against those people across town. But, we showed grit. Now, should we have been in that position to have to show that kind of grit and show that we could overcome? No, but we did. And I said it before on this show, Mark, it's a rivalry game. It's different. It's different in this city. This rivalry is different when you're in the same town and these players know each other. Their families know each other. It's very personal, very emotional. And even with that, it shouldn't matter because you should have a certain mental toughness and a certain focus that you treat all the games the same. But we're human beings, and that's not the case. And we saw kids out there playing with emotion on both sides, in my opinion. And again, the biggest thing I take away that I'm happy about is this: we're responding to the challenge. We're showing the grit that I think we're going to need when we talk about culture and Lincoln Riley's toughness and is he tough and is our team tough? They're showing it. I mean, you can't argue that. You know what I'm saying? Like we put ourselves in a horrible position and we came back from it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
No, I guess, and I know you agree with me, so I don't want to beat Traveler, too hard over this. I just watched the USC's tunnel captain this week. It was Willie McGinnis. By the way, dude still looks like he could play. If he has a year of eligibility, just give him number 55 and let him play middle linebacker. But that guy had so much passion, so much energy, so much fire. I mean, you could feel it when he's giving that little pregame speech and, all right, here come the Trojans. And then all of a sudden, they come out on offense. They score in their first offensive drive. From that point forward, I just don't understand, I guess, how it just doesn't – you're not able to build off of that type of momentum, especially when you're going up against not just UCLA, but a really bad UCLA team and a really bad UCLA team with an even worse defense. To me, that is just – I don't know. it's hard for me to enjoy the moment. I mean, as a player, you enjoy the moment because, you're wearing the helmet, you got the colors on, you got the win. But eventually, that euphoria wears off and you guys you start kicking yourself in the butt a little bit, don't you?
Yeah. No, listen, starting off with Willie McGinnis. Yeah, Willie McGinnis, one of the great Trojans from our past, was a great defensive end linebacker from the 90s, Long Beach kid, someone who truly understands the standard, the tradition. He played with, great players and coaches at USC, and he was around the other greats in his time at USC, as a lot of these guys would come visit Heritage Hall. Willie understands what this game is about and what it really means. And he understands the standard. So when you see him coming out there with that energy, because he knows what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, with our offense, it's one of those things where, on one hand, we know we do have one of the better offenses in college football. That's not even debatable. It is what it is. We do. We have the skill position players. Our O-line has played great, at times even being banged up. But it is definitely frustrating when you see our team come out there and score. And this is in back-to-back games. And we've done it before. You score in the opening drive. That's huge. That's
great.
Yeah, you set the tone. It's an aggressive and it's an attack type situation when you score on the opening drive and you put the defense on their heels. You know what I mean? But the reality is this. Those guys at UCLA, they get paid to play too. They do. Their defense. Their team as a whole hasn't been that great, obviously, and you would think that after we come out there and roll in the first series, we're going to keep doing that. That's not the reality of football, people. We know that. You know what I'm saying? They're making adjustments. Can you argue that, not having our two top receivers was a factor?
Sure.
You could argue that, of course. But at the end of the day, we have other scholarship players, so and you saw Lincoln throwing the ball to Tanuk, and, the ball was getting out to the running backs and the tight ends. We had great ball distribution like we typically do, which is a very good thing in Lincoln Riley's offense. But yeah, when we get stalled like that, and we're not able to convert and move that ball on the field after having success in the opening drive, it's frustrating because you feel like the offense just disappears, shrivels up, loses focus. What are we watching? You know what I'm saying? What's different now? So that's that is just part of it all. That they're playing with the emotions of the game. Trust me, the players care. The players care. The players,
of course,
they know what's at stake, and in this case, it's the rivalry game. So they understand how big this is. But the truth is, listen, we're not going to score on every single drive, even though we feel like we can and we should have, right? That's just not that's not football. So, give some credit to UCLA. You definitely have to. But, for us, I think that we were so much better than them that it is disappointing that we weren't able to be even more dominant, even though we won the game. The most important thing. Very happy that we won the game. I'm a guy, I went 3-5 in my rivalries between Notre Dame and UCLA, 3-5 with no wins against UCLA. So I don't take, I don't take this lightly. Okay. I celebrate these wins huge because I know what it means. But it's and I'm seeing growth from our team. There's growth in our program. That's not even debatable. But we want to see something special and get a team that we were favored by 3 touchdowns by. You know what I'm saying? I honestly believed that this would be a game that was tough in the first half. I predicted that, but I thought in the second half we'd pull away, and we did. 22 points to no points in the second half for us in UCLA, but could have been more, should have been more. You know what I mean? And that was going to be really. I was looking for that, for that 40 burger, 45, something like that, to make me feel better and just remind me how great our offense was. So, Mark, to your point in question, it is extremely frustrating when we stall and we don't have the success that we should, knowing the caliber of players we have on offense and knowing what's at stake.
Yeah, and look, people can say, well, Mark, we're playing with a banged-up offensive line. Well, it was banged up when they started the game. So they've been doing that all year, and they have been playing above their weight class on the offensive line as far as dealing with injuries. So major kudos to that. There's always going to appreciation. You and I have been giving them flowers all year long. They started the game without Jacoby and without Mackay. They scored their first touchdown without them in the first quarter. But for anybody to say it's all right to go into halftime down 10-7 against that team,
right? I
don't know, man. You're gonna have to really twist my arm hard to make me believe that, because I just can't get behind it. On that, before we close out this segment, what were your thoughts when Coach Riley decided to kind of bench Mackay and Jacoby for that first quarter?
Well, obviously, as was indicated on TV, and it was a discipline situation. And listen, if you want to get players' attention in regards to discipline and how they act, and in just acting professionally, you want to get their attention, cut their minutes. That's how you hurt a player. You cut their minutes. It's embarrassing. Number one, it's embarrassing when you're a player that everybody knows that we're relying on you. In this case, it's both of them. You know what I'm saying? And you're a huge part of our number one offense, our top offense. And we're talking about players who are projected to be top draft picks. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird. It's tough to see these guys, benched in the first quarter. But I give credit to Lincoln Riley for putting his foot down. I mean that, because you got to show that the standard is a standard, and there's a certain, and the standard is to be a professional. I mean, granted, I know it's amateur, and I'm not talking about NIL, but still the way you carry yourself, the way you go about your business. You know what I mean? And these guys are young. These are young guys doing what young guys do. Nobody's made more mistakes than me, so I'm not that hard on them. But these guys are special players, special to our team. They're leaders on our team. So, I was happy that Lincoln put his foot down and show some discipline. I'm happy that our fan base can see that when push comes to shove, he's choosing the culture the way it should be, all the time. And that's a good thing. And part of that culture is doing the right things, being where you're supposed to be, not doing what you shouldn't be doing. And you got to enforce that. You know what I'm saying? And it's to everybody's benefit. We all get better when we see two top guys get benched, and these are big time players for us. But with that said, as you said, we're able to go out there and still have some success without them. I like that. I really like. I love that. It's unfortunate. Fortunately, it didn't impact the bottom line, which is that we won the game. But hopefully, these young players behind them, our recruits, and that number one recruiting class that's watching the game, and they're hearing this as well, they realize Lincoln don't play. You know what I'm saying? And if he played before, you're dealing with a different dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's good, because, again, even our coach is growing. You know what I mean? I know he's been a head coach for a long time. He's still growing. USC is not Oklahoma. What he got when he became the head coach at Oklahoma and what he got when he became the head coach at USC were two different situations. You know what I mean? So he's having to grow in that. And I think him being tough and tough on the players is part of that. So I thought it was a good thing.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree, man. That might have been the strongest message he sent all season long. I mean, it's a shame that it had to happen in the final regular season game of the year. Makai Lemon possibly, benching his own chance at the Bolitnikoff Award. Jacoby Lenton, both of those guys possibly playing their last game as a Trojan, not just at the Coliseum, but as a Trojan, because now you've got the bowl game coming up, and more than likely these guys are going to step away to prepare for the NFL. So for Coach Riley to take that step and say, today we're doing this, and you had all those recruits in the number one ranked recruiting class inside the Coliseum, message received. Absolutely. So that might have been his best play call of the day, if you're asking me.
The foundation of what we're doing has to be discipline. The discipline is everything. You know what I mean? So you look at the Pete Carroll teams, you look at the Saban teams. It's discipline, and you enforce it, and you teach it, and you preach it. And really, it should come from the senior players. That the older players should be the ones really enforcing that. You know what I mean? But again, we're dealing with young guys, and young guys do what young guys do. So
absolutely. Okay, we got a couple more segments to go. I'm going to ask you: is it acceptable? Not, kind of an open-ended question there. And then final segment before we get out of here, we're going to talk about that number one ranked recruiting class. Possibly going 10-3, and what that means to the program going forward. It's coming up next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. It's finally giving the fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time. You can get alerts when the great seats open up, and you can buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll. You can see all the matchups, you compare all the different seat views, and you can pick a game. Tap a section, and you're going to literally have your tickets locked in within minutes. There's no confusion, no hunting for the fine print. Prices include fees up front, which you're going to love. I love it. No last-second surprises when you check out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, every concert, or every event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. All right, so Marvin, USC got the win, 29-10. While not impressive on the surface, the win itself, totally acceptable. Anytime you can beat the Bruins, it's always acceptable. Close, beat down, whatever, you want to take it. But talk to me, my man. We kind of talked about it a little bit. What's up with these slow starts? I mean, forget the defense. Even though it ticks me off, I've come to anticipate those dudes are just going to keep punching the snooze button until halftime. That's just who they become this year. But what's up with the offense?
You know something? I can't call that, Mark. It's tough, man. But what I'll say is this: that when you look at our whole process, that's part of what's next in our process. Being able to continue to be aggressive on offense and be aggressive early, and be consistent early, be efficient early. That's a focus. That's how you practice. A lot of that just is in your mental preparation and visualization. A lot of that is preached, and you create a sense of urgency in practice, and you create a practice that's competitive early in drills, early with the team periods, 7-on-7, whatever it may be. You got to drill that kind of efficiency and that kind of attitude. And, that's something that as a whole, I think, again, we're showing a lot of progress as a whole, especially how we're finishing games in the second half. But to your point, in the first half, we're just inconsistent, and it's tough. But, I think, to be honest, I think a lot of that has to do and Jaden's had a great year overall. I mean, he's had a phenomenal year. And you look at what Lincoln's done with him from UNLV to his first year at USC to now. Yep. I mean, again, say what you want. Lincoln Riley is the quarterback guru. That's not just smoke and mirrors. That's the real deal. But I think a lot of that is maybe on Jaden and just him becoming more, and he is becoming more of a leader, and just having more urgency, just having more presence and more energy at the line of scrimmage in the huddle, him having more commands at practice and demanding more on the players. I'm not putting all this on him. And listen, I hope he comes back. I'm a big Jaden fan. Again, he played great for us, but still, even Jaden has to get better. You know what I'm saying? So when you're the quarterback, you're the field general, you're the guy. That's a role that he's been, you look at when he first got to USC and now that he's growing into, you know what I'm saying? So I think, honestly, I'm certain Lincoln's preaching it. I know Lincoln wants to get off to a fast start and stay strong. That's his side of the ball. That's his expertise, right? But the next step is getting your quarterback to be that person, to be that guy. And that's all part of Jaden's development. And if he chooses to come back, which I think he will, just based upon how he was talking at the end of the game, I think that's probably his sense of urgency and his command is going to impact how the offense flows and how the offense moves and how we're efficient and aggressive. So the next step is probably Jaden evolving as that leader, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I really had no problem with his performance the other night against UCLA. There were two plays that stood out that was like, dude, stop. Why do you keep doing this? The first one was early in the game when, he held on the ball, rolling right. All of a sudden he's on the sideline. It's like, okay, throw the ball away. Instead, he steps out of bounds for like a 4 or 5 yard loss. That can't happen. You can't always start behind the chains because and I don't think this is what he's doing, but it looks like you're protecting your completion percentage because you don't want to throw an incomplete pass.
Yeah.
The other one was that interception they got overturned. It was just a bad decision. You don't throw the ball into bracket coverage like that. Yes, there was pass interference. Yes, there was a roughing the passer on the play that nullified the interception, but you still don't make that throw because you never count on the referees to bail you out.
You're right. And with Jaden, I mean, again, he's played really well overall. His performance this year was I'd say it was almost great. But with him, sometimes he makes those special plays and it's magic. Sometimes he forces those plays and it's tragic. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what what Lincoln, I think, is coaching out of him. And listen, we've all seen the interceptions and some of those plays that we're all talking about. But again, as a whole, he's pretty efficient. I think going into that game, he was number one in QBR in the nation. You know what I'm saying? So that speaks to efficiency. But again, in tight games, and that game was tight for a little bit, you can't make those kind of errors. And against a rivalry team like UCLA, they're banking on turnovers. What they're telling their team is, on defense, we need turnovers. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need turnovers. So, we need him to continue to play well in big games. And again, that's just part of his process. It's not a situation where we're going to see everything happen overnight or within a year and a half. It takes a minute to really get these guys going, these quarterbacks, and to get them to really see the field the way they should, make the reads the way they should. Jaden has come a long way, and I think this is part of what him and Lincoln will be doing in the spring, looking at these key plays, the turnovers, the failed third down conversions, all that stuff. They look at all that stuff in the offseason and just kind of talk them through it and coach them through it. So these are things that we are expecting to see much less of next year. Just like this year, we saw a huge improvement. Next year, we should see a huge improvement as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you bring Jaden back, you have Husan Longstreet coming back as well. You don't have to worry about his red shirt being burned because he's done that this year. Now you can start incorporating him more into the game plan. I know Lincoln Riley's not a big two-quarterback system type of guy, but it gives you that opportunity because if Jaden does decide to leave, now you're left with Husan, who's uber talented, but now all of a sudden you fall back on, well, we're young, we're inexperienced, we got to scale back the playbook type of thing, and now you got to go to the transfer portal possibly to get another quarterback. Look, we talked about Jaden not turning the ball over, physically turning the ball over, but USC, this is where, again, being down 10-7 at halftime for me was unacceptable, because when you don't score points, and even if you're settling for a field goal, you're turning the ball over on downs, you're not getting, you're putting all those yards up between the 20s, but it's an empty stat. So you can say, well, look how many yards USC's putting up. Who cares? I know Coach Riley hates that stat. Mm-hmm. If you can put up all the yards you want, but if you're not finishing with points, that is an empty stat. And you cannot give a team like UCLA that type of hope. Like, oh, look, they missed one field goal. We blocked another. We're in this game. They can't score on our defense when everybody else can. Let's play football. But they come out in the second half. They shut that whole thing down. 22 unanswered points. You even have Coach Riley throwing a little bit of a dagger there at the end. Hey, the game's still out of hand, but we're going to go for 2 anyways, just to make it 29-10. All that, I wanted to see more of that in the first half. That's where I think both yours and my disappointment comes from in this game. We love the win. We love finishing 9-3, possibility of going 10-3. You have the number 1 ranked recruiting class coming in. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. The future is bright. They just have to, stare into the light and walk into it. Walk into the light. That doesn't mean you're dying this time. It means walk into the light. All right, one more segment to go. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know what the perfect gift is, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost all too simple to give the perfect gift. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to a family or to friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to the front door. And this week is the best time to jump on in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. I mean, I love Omaha Steaks. Marvin, I don't know if you've ever tried them. They are delicious. They're awesome. The quality is exactly what you hope for. They're incredibly tender. They got rich flavor. They got meals that make hosting or even just weeknight cooking that much easier. And the variety, underrated. You got steaks, you got burgers, you got chicken, you got comfort meals, you got side dishes, desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits anyone. So if you want to give a great gift and save some big time money too, then head on over to omahasteaks.com and you're going to get 50% off site-wide. And you're also going to get an extra 20% off select favorites during the cyber sale. And check this out. You can get an additional $35 off if you use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, Marvin, we're 9-3. I think we're going to the Alamo Bowl. It's going to be in San Antonio, December 30th. We just kind of have to wait and find out who USC is going to play. It could be BYU. It could be Houston. It could be Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
You got the number 1 ranked recruiting class coming in. And our good friend Scott Schrader over there at wersc.com said, we're not done. They're actually not done with the 2026 class. There's apparently, in the next 24 hours or so, news is going to break that USC is signing another big-time player in this class. I don't know exactly who it is. I think it could be that wide receiver from Mater Dei, Caden.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would be huge because, as we know, USC is going to need to replenish that wide receiver room this offseason, especially when you're losing Mackay and Jacoby Lane. More than likely. That's not 100% guaranteed. I think everybody's assuming that. USC finishes the season 10-3, brings in the number 1 ranked recruiting class. What does that say about the future?
Well, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year when everyone said that we'd be 8-4 at best, that no, you'll be 10-3.
Not me.
Hey, Mark, I thought we'd be 11-1. You know what I mean?
I thought we'd be 10-2, but
yeah. So, but if you would have told me then, how about this, Marv? You guys will be 10-3, and you'll be undefeated at home. You'll beat UCLA, and you'll have the number 1 recruiting class going into next season. Based upon where we are in the process, knowing that this thing is outside of Indiana, this isn't an overnight thing. You know, there's no overnight success that you typically see in the NFL going, so I would have taken that and I would have looked at that and said, that's growth, that's progress. This is us building a championship and an elite program. You know what I'm saying? So 10-3 is not the standard. The Alamo Bowl is not the standard. You don't go to you walk into Heritage Hall or what was Heritage Hall. You don't see Alamo Bowl trophy. You see national championships. You see
Rose Bowl trophies.
You see Rose Bowls. You see number 1 overall draft picks. You see first team All-Americans.
Yeah.
You see nothing but greatness consistently from Howard Jones all the way through to what Lincoln Riley's doing now and adding a Heisman Trophy with Caleb Williams. You know what I'm saying? So that's the standard. Right now, this is growth. All right, we are not where we want to be, but we are on the right path. And I, as an alum, as a former player, as the son of a former player, as somebody who understands our tradition and our history well, I believe that, and I feel good about that. Very good.
I think everybody should feel good about that.
Yeah.
I just wish USC wouldn't take the long, winding road to get there.
Right.
Again. Love the win against UCLA. You look at the score, they say, 29-10. USC's defense dominated. It doesn't really quite tell the story. However, you're finishing the season strong, and you're starting the new season even stronger.
Yeah, and Mark, really, what we need to see specifically for this to all continue to make sense, let's first acknowledge what a great job our coaches did, especially on offense with the offensive line, Zach Hansen, dealing with injuries, guys
100%.
put out, missing guys from the beginning of the year. He did a phenomenal job with that offensive line. We saw development. We saw guys getting coached up, and that's a great thing. Let's not forget, we got 2 young tackles, these defensive tackles, Jakeem Stewart and I want to say Adebisi, not Adebisi.
So you got Floyd Bucard.
We have another player, but these guys are getting coached up and they're playing well, playing good down the stretch. So we're seeing guys getting coached up. We need to make sure we hit the transfer portal correctly, get the right guys. Okay.
Yes.
This spring, all of our young players who played well, whether it's our corner, who it may be, they got to get them coached up, get these guys coached up, you know what I'm saying? And get this freshman class in here and let's roll, because next season we have a serious schedule. You know what I mean? But this is looking good, Mark. I mean, it is. When you take a step back and you look at it, 10-3, number 1 class going into next year, I'll take that.
Could be worse, right? Could be worse.
You could be UCLA. You're talking about
There you go.
It could be worse.
Look, I know a lot of people like to jump on it and give me some pushback, some blowback on the comment section because I come across as this old crotchety guy. Look, I care. I probably care too much. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And as Marvin said, I understand what the standard is. And I just want USC to meet that standard. I don't want them to go above the standard. I just want them to meet that standard. And that means playing 4 quarters of football from the opening whistle to the final gun. That means when you're playing your rival, you're ready to play when the game starts. You're not waiting till you're down 10-7 at halftime. I don't think that's a huge ask. And I think that's the bare minimum that fans should require as well. This isn't, American Youth Soccer Organization where everybody gets to play and you pat everybody on the head and say, nice job. Everybody gets to play. Not today. College football is big business now. I mean, let me put this into context. Marvin, when you were playing for USC, they never had early signing period, right? That didn't exist. No. You waited until February. That was a national holiday for college football.
Right.
Today, you've got these young men. They are going to be signing their letters of intent this coming week. A few of them are already being sized for their Trojan uniform because they're going to be practicing with the team in preparation for the bowl game.
I love it.
That's where we're at today. So I need everybody to catch up with me and say, hey, it's more professional than amateur. We need to anticipate and I'm using finger quotes, expect more from this program. We are now going into year number 5 of the Lincoln Riley era. He's bringing in the best recruiting class he's had. He said it after the game. We're going to have better teams than the one we have this year. But this year is probably going to be the most important team for this program going forward because of everything that you and I talked about, Marvin, especially you at the beginning of the show, the culture, setting the standard, paving the way. Coach Riley saying, you know what, discipline matters, and I'm willing to sit our 2 best players to send the message and make sure everybody understands. You want to play for this program, everybody's the same, everybody's going to be held to the same standard. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean we don't appreciate, USC, fighting from behind and winning these games. But we also want more for this program because we know what it's capable of doing. I say the same thing Coach Riley says. I just say it a little bit more, I don't know, not as politically correct, not as nice, more blunt to the point. You understand exactly what I say when I say it. You're not wondering about it.
The thing about Coach Riley is when he talks, I believe he tells the truth in regard to his perspective and how he sees, what happened in the game, what's happening with the team. He tells the truth. He doesn't tell the whole truth, meaning he's very good about being positive, which is important, and you need to be positive in this sport. He's very good about spinning it into a positive. He doesn't always call it out for what it is when it's ugly, when it's not good, when it's not acceptable. And I understand that because, believe me, he's saying it to the players. He's telling the players behind closed doors that it's ugly and what it is, and he's not being nice about it. He's using other language. Trust me, he is, okay? But as a former player, I want to hear it too. I want to make sure that we're on the same page, Lincoln, and we are. I mean, without a question, we've gotten better. We're getting better. For Trojan fans who understand, how great we are and how great we're supposed to be, it can't come fast enough.
Absolutely. So. I can't wait for the bowl game. I'm looking forward to it. I got now basically a month of, enjoying USC college basketball, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not ready for the season to end.
Yeah,
and I just want to everybody understands this show, Locked On USC. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, because when you hear what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, now you're setting the standard. Now you know what the expectation level is. This is a no spin zone. No excuses allowed. If Coach Riley's going to use excuses, Marvin and we're not going to use excuses either. All right. So there you go. We laid it out for y'all. We're all happy. We enjoyed it. Doesn't mean we have to. Again, it's kind of like taking cough medicine. We know it's good for you. We know it's the cure, but sometimes you're going to make a face when you have to swallow it. It just doesn't taste good, but you have to do it. You just have to do it. All right, Marvin, I think you're going to be back again later this week, right?
I hope so, man. So, hey, you let me know, boss. All right, you let me know.
I will definitely be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. Marvin will be back later this week. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.